Hey Tumbler family, and welcome to any new guests. My name is Tracy and I run and operate Trey-Magnifique Boutique. Welcome to my studio. Alright y'all, you wanted a fun tutorial on this Starburst pattern style tumbler. I hope y'all enjoy this one. Here we go.
All right, so I'm starting off with a 20-ounce skinny straight tumbler that I got from the Stainless Steel Depot. I sanded it and then wiped it down really well with some rubbing alcohol. For this particular tumbler, I opted to keep the bottom clean, meaning I did not want the design going down around the edges of the cup, so I'm just going to tape it off with some electrical tape here and not worried about how it looks because I'm going to take my all-in-one tumbler tool you see here and use it as my straight edge. So I'm going to give it a few spins around that blade and it's going to give me a nice clean cut all the way around, a nice straight edge. So after removing the excess tape, ta-da, nice clean straight line. And I apologize, I forgot to film that I spray painted my cup white, but hey look, I spray painted my cup white. And now I'm going to use 3 separate colors to spray some random spots around the cup. This first one that you just saw there was a Rustoleum brand called Sea Glass. And now I'm going to take a fluorescent pink, which I believe is a Krylon brand, and spray some more random spots on there. Obviously, some of it's going to overlap the blue a little bit, so I get my purples, and then I'm going to finish up with a yellow that will fill in any of those white spots, and then I'm going to overlap the pink a little bit to get some oranges, and then I'm going to overlap the blue a little bit to get some greens. After that paint is dry, I'm going to put some adhesive on my cup for my glitter. I'm going to do the burnish method on this particular tumbler, and so my adhesive of choice is called Eileen's Tack It Over and Over. It really is simple and easy to use and leaves such a fun effect, but there are a couple of things to keep in mind. You want to make sure that your adhesive is applied as smooth as possible. And since this is a thicker substance, I always add 1 to 2 drops of water just to thin it out a little bit. If you end up adding too much water, not a big deal. You'll just have to apply multiple coats, so just a slight inconvenience there. So once I have the tack it to my desired consistency, I'm just going to glob it on the cup and then use my paintbrush and keep swiping back and forth until it's as smooth as possible, and then I'm going to let it sit and have some time to dry. You'll know that your cup is ready to go when it's completely clear, there's no white spots screaming at you, hey, I'm not ready to go, and then at which point I will go ahead and remove the tape from the bottom of the cup. So now I'm going to cover my entire cup in glitter, and my color of choice is called Golden Opal that I got from Sass & Crafts. It's a super fine white iridescent glitter that leaves, as the name implies, a golden sheen and is absolutely gorgeous. I'm pretty sure that without fail I have used this color every time I've done the burnish method, especially over these neons. At this point, it honestly just looks like I'm coating the cup in sugar, which is beautiful in its own right, and I've been tempted to leave it, but the next step is just so much fun. I've never been able to just bring myself to leave it alone. This is my favorite part out of the entire process of making this tumbler, finally burnishing the glitter. And all that means is I'm going to take my finger and I'm going to rub that glitter, which is going to force the glitter to lay flat, and it's going to make everything extra shiny. That golden sheen that I was talking about earlier is really going to shine through here, as well as it's going to make those neons back behind blend really well. It's going to give this almost an ombre look. It makes everything pop, and it's just so visually stunning. And once I have the entire cup burnished, I'm just going to go straight into a layer of epoxy. You do not need to worry about sealing it. That glitter is not going to go anywhere, and you just need a thin layer. Again, this is a 20-ounce skinny, so I'm just going to use maybe 10 to 15 mils of epoxy. As of right now, I really like using Counterculture's Fast Set, so I'm ready to move on to the next part on this tumbler within about 2 to 3 hours. So here is the Starburst pattern that I found on Etsy, and I'll make sure to link it below to make it easier for everyone to find. As far as the dimensions for this pattern, again, I'm using a 20-ounce skinny straight tumbler from the Stainless Steel Depot, and I know every vendor's cups are going to have slightly different measurements, but for this particular one, I believe I have the height of this pattern set at 8.1 inches and the width set at 9.3 inches. And then for my transfer tape, I know, again, everybody has their own preferences. I actually just found a clear contact paper at Walmart, and it's always worked really well for me. So I'm just going to size that a little bit bigger than the size of my pattern, and then cut it out and then apply this to the cup. So here I'm just double checking everything lines up the way that it's supposed to, and what I'm going to do after that is peel away 1 to 2 inches of the backing and trim it away, exposing the adhesive side to that vinyl. And I want to share with you a little trick that I learned in regards to applying decals or patterns like this to make sure that they stay nice and straight. Now, it doesn't matter for this pattern as it's not directional, but you will have to pay attention to any other type patterns that are directional. If you flip your cup upside down, that will allow you to sit that top edge of that pattern onto your hard surface as well, while you press down that adhesive side of the vinyl to your cup. And then if you turn it sideways, you should be able to slowly peel away the backing with one hand while rolling your tumbler onto your pattern with the other hand. And that should allow it to roll straight across without shifting up, without shifting down, and everything should align nice and neat for you. If, however, on this particular pattern, one of the pieces don't line up perfectly for you, just pick that piece up and readjust it with your hand, and you'll never be able to tell that it never lined up perfectly to begin with. I'm going to use a football arm in this cup just so I have a handle to be able to maneuver the cup however I want to as I move on to the next step of applying glitter to those open places in the pattern. The color that I chose is called Midnight, which is also a super fine glitter that I got from PDB. They are actually my preferred glitter vendor. And I'm just going to apply this using Mod Podge. Now I will say I typically hate using Mod Podge, but I'm just trying to get this bottle used up so it doesn't go to waste. But you can honestly use whatever adhesive you want. If you like Mod Podge, use Mod Podge. You can also use Elmer's glue. You can use Tack It like we did earlier for the golden opal. You can use epoxy, and you can even do this entire cup using double-sided adhesive tape. Now, in using the Mod Podge, I do try to remove the pattern piece in between two glittered areas as quickly as I can. It's been my experience that if the Mod Podge sits for any length of time and actually dries, when you try to remove the pattern piece in between those two glittered areas, it'll actually rip off a whole bunch of your glitter with it, and then you have to go back and try to fill it in again, and it's super frustrating. So again, in using Mod Podge, I will try to apply it real quick, glitter it real quick, and then remove that pattern piece as quick as possible in hopes of maintaining a nice clean line. So when I do tutorials for you guys, I always try to be as detail oriented as possible. I try to let y'all in on all of my tips, tricks, insights, you name it. However, I also try to keep all of my tutorials 30 minutes or less. So due to time constraints and this particular portion of the process being very repetitive, Mod Podge glitter, pull the pattern piece, repeat, I'm just going to let it show a few of these pieces, just enough to get the point across, and then you'll see the camera do a cutaway, but I will show the end process of each of these steps for you guys. So here's the end process for this one after all of the black glitter has been applied and I just pulled the last pattern piece. So the only thing that I've done off camera was give that glitter and that Mod Podge time to dry, and then I did seal that glitter really well by spraying a couple layers of the Krylon triple thick clear glaze over it. After that, I did do a layer of epoxy, and then once that epoxy had cured, I did do a very light sanding on the cup because there was a couple of pokey pieces of glitter sticking up, and I do need the cup as smooth as possible for this next part, which is applying the pinstripes. And again, just like with the glitter, because this part is very repetitive, you know, pinstriping all the way around, I'll show you guys the first little bit, and then I'll show you what it looks like in the very end. Now, as far as the vinyl that I used, this is actually a glow-in-the-dark vinyl, and I apologize. I honestly do not remember where I got it. I've had it for a couple of years, but I'm sure you guys can get on, you know, whoever your favorite glitter vendor is, because I know some of them sell vinyl, or I'm sure you can Google glow-in-the-dark vinyl and order it that way. But as far as the sizing of these pinstripes, these smaller pieces I have set to 7 inches. Obviously that's more than enough, so you are going to trim it down. And I have the height of these set to 0.1. So these are a super fine pinstripe. Now there is the one stripe that goes all the way around the cup that's in the middle. That one I have set length of 9.25 inches just so it goes all the way around, and I will show that one you know, before I do the cutaway, that way you guys can see it. So here's the end process of that pinstriping. I went ahead and trimmed any of the overlap vinyl away on the back and pretty much did the same thing on the front. I just cut out a circular area there where all of the vinyl was overlapping on the front. That way I didn't have a huge lump when I went to apply my last layer of epoxy. All right, so when I do pinstripes, I can never leave it just one layer. It always has to have two so it pops and gives dimension and makes it real fun. So I found these nail striping tapes. They come in like a pack of 100, or at least mine did. I found them on Amazon and they're all sorts of colors. And so I opted to grab like 6 or 7 of them for this to make it look like the color of the rainbow. So I'm starting off with a light pink, which is going to go right around the center, and then do obviously a repeating pattern of color all the way around. So the next one will be like the orange, then yellow, then green, then light blue, dark blue, then a purple, and then I needed one other color, so I think I used a fuchsia, and then obviously it goes back around to the light pink. So again, as with all of the other steps, because this is so repetitive, I'll show you the first few and then I'll show you what the end result looks like. So here's the end process for this step. Before I put it in epoxy, I will seal this with Minwax polyacrylic just to make sure that that epoxy does not make any of this vinyl lift. And then any of those overhanging pieces up top, I will cut away after the epoxy does cure and I can give it a nice smooth rim. So here it is in an epoxy layer. It is absolutely gorgeous, and oh my gosh, I'm going to have such a hard time letting this one go. But wait a minute, I told y'all that this one glows in the dark. Boom! There it is. All right, Tumbler family, I hope y'all enjoyed this one. If y'all have any questions, comments, concerns, etc., give me a shout out down below. I love y'all. I'll catch you next time.